Hey, my name is Ryan McEwen. I'm a professor at the University of Dayton. This session is going to be about how to create multiple panel graphs in GGplot. I'm going to also discuss the function gather, which is a tidyverse function, and this sort of do loop process called facets, and we'll develop some graphs there. Hopefully this will be useful to you. We're going to use three packages. So you need to install and activate these packages. One is called Grid Extra, so you can run this code you see here. The second is GGplot, which is a very common package for graphing, really popular. And the next is the tidyr package. So just do those one at a time and give the machine time to finish thinking. You'll see it pop up in the console where it starts to install the package. Let that complete before you do anything else. So pause the video, install the packages. You can install your packages using this function. This is RStudio. I just use this old school because I used to code in R before RStudio was a thing. And this works. Okay, once you've installed the packages, you can just activate them all by using this bit of code here. So you can type up library grid extra, library ggplot2, library tidyr, and make sure that you've got green lights down, blue, that it's functioning here. The console will pop up and say, okay, you got it. Okay, ready? Right, so what we're going to do, we're going to be working with this Flora data set. I will provide that to you in the description of the video. We'll read in that data set, and you can, again, you can do it. This is the way I read in data sets. It's, again, old school, using the read.csv command. You could also use whatever other technique that you are used to. For example, the import. You can go import from text and go find it wherever it is and bring it in that way. It doesn't really matter how you're going to run that. Just get the data in. Once you've inputted the data, then take a look. I like to do it this way too, to see it in the console. Just type the name. It's going to come in as Flora CSV. You could also view it like this, and it'll pop up as a tab. Okay, so just sweep that. So what we have here is a data set where you've got year, and these are all, see my cursor here? These are all plant names, the genus of different plants. And what we were doing is monitoring first flowering day for these different plants. And this is like starts January 1st would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 67, whatever. I'll share with you the paper that this data set's coming from. It's plant ecology paper about flowering phenology, climate warming, in southwestern Ohio. And we're specifically, I'll share the link, it may be paywall for you, I don't know. But in any case, we're going to be working with this, recreating this figure 2. And see my cursor here? So basically we have these different species, Galanthus, crocus, so forth. And for this publication, I created this stack of 3 and 3. It actually is a 6-panel stack. And each stack includes this cloud of points. See my cursor? This is like a scatter diagram. And then the linear regression, this line is the linear regression through the cloud of points. See here, here, here. Over here, these are dotted because they were not significant and statistically significant. And then, AKA, the line was flat. And then, we went on to talk about the R-squared and p-values, and there was a whole big discussion, but you can chase that down if you'd like to read the paper. It's a scintillating read, if I do say so myself. Anyway, this is what we're going to do. We're going to recreate this or spend some time working on it, okay? And so back to the R Studio, this is the data set. So I shared with you the data set. Now, a simple way to create this graph would be like this. So this is, yeah, type the code, pause the video, type the code. Okay, got it. So this is just the scatter diagram. This bit of the code is just a scatter diagram. And then you can drive a line through it using this stat smooth. So this is flora is the data set. X is year. Y, I just picked Galanthus as one of the species and go back and forth and say, okay, here's Galanthus. And Galanthus was at the top here. See, this is back to the paper. This, what you see right here, this top box, is this. Now, it's not the same, of course, because there's wide limitations and there's other things to do there. Now, here's another species, crocus. Again, this is just a basic scatter diagram with a line. So pause the video, type the code. Now we can find CRO in this way using like type CRO and put a little caret here. By the way, this is the graph code here. But we're going to define it. We're going to use grid arrange here to stack these. So you can define it like this, highlight the whole thing, including the CRO and this little caret here, greater than and dash, whatever. And then here I did GAL for Galanthus, greater than and dash. And then we can stack them using grid arrange like this. Galanthus and crocus. So go ahead and do that grid arrange business. Got it. So this is a stack of two of these species. So Galanthus and crocus right here. Now there's a lot more to do to get this cleaned up. For example, if you wanted to mirror what I've done in the paper, you would want to get rid of this this confidence interval. You can do that using SE equals false. I'll just grab it and throw it up there for you to see how that would work. That's just one of the things you would do. You would want, see, I just did this one plot by itself. I took the confidence interval out. You'd want to get rid of the space behind it using theme classic, probably theme classic. You just get rid of the gray. There's other things to do to get it to look like this. And we're not going to be able to get it exactly. Then you would want to have an annotate or something to put the Galanthus italicized there, and you'd want to change the X and Y labels, and you would want to set Y limits, and there's all sorts of things to do to get it to look exactly like that. But just by itself here, we've got at least some back to the grid arrange. You've got a beginning towards stacking this the way it needs to be stacked. Now, the next thing to do here would be then fix up the code the way you want it to look, and then you can make a 3x3 stack using this grid arrange. This process, though, whether we could exactly create this or not, it would be quite complicated, and you're going to have to write the code for each of these kind of as you go along. And so it's going to be a lot of code where you're defining things. I think it's a fine approach, but there's something better to do that is a lot more sleek. So next, to show you that, this is using the facet function, but to get the facet function to work correctly, the next thing we want to do is use gather, which is a tidy command, to change our rectangular data set. This is a rectangular data set or data frame. People get particular about that word. I don't know why. In any case, change this rectangular to a long data set. And so the way we're going to do that is, this is Flora long. You can name it whatever you want to. And then, but if you want to follow along with me, then just Flora long, small f here. And then another little like greater than dash, little caret. Gather is the command. Flora is the data set. We're going to key here equals species. And then we're going to use FFP is going to be the first flowering date. That's what we're going to name that column that's coming. And then we're going to go 2 through 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is going to work just perfectly. You can use this in your own data set. You're going to need to think carefully about what you're doing, but the gather function is quite useful to take a rectangular data set and make it a long data set. So now, instead of going year here and then species as columns, we've got year, species, first flowering date, or the column headings, and now each basically observation has its own row. Aha, this is better. Try to make that happen. Okay. I'm assuming it worked just fine. So now we're going to use facet in GGplot. So facet is a way to combine graphs into a single space that is simpler and tidier than using grid arrange in some cases. I like grid arrange, especially just for looking quickly at data sets. But when it's time to like write your thesis chapter or something, you might want to think about facet potentially a better way. For example, here we're going to code one figure and have that code apply to all of the species instead of coding each plot and then naming them P1, P2, or we did CRO and GAL above and so forth. This is basically a kind of what in the old days we would call a do loop, which is just telling GGplot to go do this thing and then do it again, then do it again, then do it again until we're done. We're going to use facet wrap. There is also facet grid. And of course, other applications. You can explore those as you wish. I think facet wrap in this case works just fine. But what we're going to do now is come up with this is basically the code here. Not basically. This is the code for the graph. So and then we're going to say. So this is like the details of the graph we want. And then we're going to go facet wrap, open, parentheses, tilde, species, in call to, number of columns, scale free. There's a lot of details here for you to explore on your own. All the purpose of this video is just to get you started doing this. Bingo. So now, what's happened is GGplot went, okay, I'm going to make this graph, and I'm just going to do it over and over again and facet those plots together. This is a lot more similar to what we've got here, and it's a lot less code, a lot less than what you would need to do like the grid arrange technique, where you have to write the code, define it, write the code, define it, write the code, define it, and then stack them using grid arrange. This is much better, much easier, much simpler actually in the end, although conceptually maybe it's a little bit challenging. Okay, now if you want to keep chasing this down, you can stop there, but stop the video, you're done. Or if you want to go a little further, recreating this, I'll teach you a couple other little techniques here. We've got this order in the paper that does not appear here because this is going alphabetically. So, okay, let's redefine or rename, basically, or reorganize our species. So to match the paper, we need to arrange the graph specifically based on species, and to do that, we can use factor, because what we're doing here is I'm dividing them into species that were responding to climate change and those are not. They don't respond similarly. This is a nuanced thing. And then here's the way you would do this. There's different, again, probably 39 different ways of doing this. This is just one that works well, works for me, which is, this is sort of old school R code. Flora long is a data set. Species is what we're going to factor by. Factor is the command. Again, flora long species, and then levels. And I put tabs here. You can have it stretched out, but tabs to make it simpler for me to see. Concatenate Galanthus. This is the order we want them to be in. Galanthus, Ranunculus, Crocus, Centaria. Fox inadjuratum. Have to be in quotes. You have to have a comma after each. Close parentheses, close parentheses. If you misspell any of these, it won't work. It has to be exactly, the names exactly as they're spelled here, including the capitalization. All of it has to be exactly the same, or else R will just be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Come on, man, there's nothing here. But if you do it exactly like this, comma, 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 close it out correctly, then this will reorder your species. And now we can draw the graph again. And this is a bit more code. Let me zoom out, actually. It'll be hard to see all of it unless I do this. So here is a lot more code. So pause the video and type up this code. Let me open it up for you here. It's a lot to type. Note that I'm not saying this is the ideal way of handling the situation. I'm just saying it's a pathway you can head down, and it can be a lot more functional than the grid arrange technique. We're not finished here by any means. Well, let me go through the code first before. This is like the general code format. Facet wrap we already did up there, and then the rest of this is details. So in classic is getting rid of the kind of gray mesh in the back of the graph, which is a GGplot default. And then the rest of this is changing backgrounds, drawing boxes around, so closing the boxes off, using italic and black font. So we're putting italics here. We're changing the overall text to serif. Serif is a similar font to Times New Roman. Again, this is going back to this. This wasn't even Times New Roman here, but you might like to have it Times New Roman. We don't have this exactly figured out yet. So the Galanthus, for example, is outside the box. So you have to think about how to get those inside the box. You would have to maybe change these the limits here to make it a little bit cleaner. It's a little bit messy here. So there's some other things to do. I'm not saying we're finished. I have first flowering date, ordinal date here in the middle of these two. Over here, it's only on this side. I think this is actually possibly better. It's a little bit better there. These can actually stay out on top. It doesn't matter that much to me. There'll be other things to do to make this thing. And this is pretty good. I'm not crazy about the Y ticks here. I would probably play with those a little bit. There's other things to do. before you would finalize it. So this is not quite finished from my perspective. But the purpose of this is simply to show you how to use facet wrap, how to create multiple panel graphs. And a lot of people in biology end up doing that in your thesis or your dissertation chapter, or you're writing a manuscript as an undergraduate, or you have some other thing to do, and you're going like, oh, how do I stack this stuff up? And in a way that's not insanely complicated, or like printing it out and putting it in. I know people like put it in PowerPoint even, like, and then make up. No, let's not do that. Let's build it, if we can, to the extent we can, in our studio. So that is the conclusion of the video. Hopefully that was somewhat helpful to you, and we'll see you next time.